was just said. You know, as we said, this is a magazine that's been targeted before, firebombed, but today in what French are calling the deadliest attack in 2 decades, they enter during, as Danielle said, an editorial meeting. Joining me now in studio, security expert Derek Humble. He is senior operational consultant at Globe Risk International. Derek, I know you could hear what Danielle was saying. In terms of it being Al-Qaeda.
I don't believe so.
You don't think so?
Well, when you look at the sheer cool way that these individuals progressed through the attack, one of the stunning images for me, it may seem odd, was after the attack, one of them had shed a running shoe. He stopped, picked his running shoe up, dropped it in the back of the car, and they drove off. That says to me, these guys are veterans. They've been under fire. They've been shot at. So there's a coolness that I associate with ISIS as opposed to the somewhat shambolic people down in Yemen. But they quickly claim, and they want to be known as the baddest group on the planet. So it might not be at face value Al-Qaeda, and certainly I would doubt the Yemen thing.
Okay, so ISIS, there was some suggestion also it could be a disgruntled French military, former military individuals as well. Is that a possibility?
It's always a possibility, because what's happened in France is they've become very disenfranchised, a lot of the French youth, as they have in many countries. So what do? They go very easily through the very porous borders, France, down through Turkey, join ISIS. They do 18 months, they do 2 years, and then somebody says, you know, you should go home. We've got some plans for you. Stand by, hide up in the local community, we'll get you the weapons. Now, I've heard talk about an RPG. I don't know where that talk come from. Through all the video I'm hearing and seeing, there's no explosion like an RPG, and an RPG is a difficult thing to move around.
Is that the Kalashnikov type
No, the RPG is the rocket-propelled grenade, which is about
that size. It's huge. Yeah.
The AK-47 folding butt, you can tuck it under a jacket and get yourself to the scene quite easily. So I tend to think these guys are veterans, and it speaks to the fear that people have about youth being recruited, let's say from Canada. Why don't we want them going and join ISIS? Because they could come back and do this. They come back into their community, they're absorbed, and then they launch these hideous attacks.
Yeah, now what about that? Because they escaped in a black vehicle, which police subsequently found. You wonder whether these were stolen vehicles, and they go from one vehicle to the next. Are they able to simply disappear into the community? Do you think they're ever going to be found? Oh,
I think they'll be found. I think this is the sort of thing where you might have some sort of passive, tacit support from the locals, but once the locals see what they did, they go, oh my God, we've got to let people know very quietly, because I don't want to be isolated as a spy for the government, but I think the information will come out there. But it's not unlike the Boston bombing. These guys, well, the one guy that survived, he ended up hidden in the hull of somebody's sailboat. Eventually they found him. Boston's not the same size as Paris. It doesn't have such a complex underground life, subway systems, things like that. I think they'll be found. I think there'll be a shootout. These guys are too valuable to be suicide bombers. The other thing is you get riffraff from the organization convinced to go and blow themselves up. But not these guys. They ain't going to do it. The three of them are very useful as they are.
And targeting the satirical magazine.
Islam doesn't do satire. They're very, very fanatical. You can't make jokes. So once you get into that vein of comedy, you've got serious enemies. It's not like the West. The punditry that goes on around prime ministers and presidents and people like that, people shrug and go, oh, well, it's their right to say that. Not in this factor, they don't.
Okay. Derek, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Derek Humble.